Hi, everyone, and welcome to the last week extended version of the course where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about portfolio and rendering preparation. So, the one thing I'd like you guys to do, if you can, or eventually will do, is register at artstation.com. I find it's a really heavy portfolio website that has a lot of job opportunities available for you, and I heard that a lot of people from different companies tend to go here to look for artists for jobs. Excuse me, and that includes Canada. There's different locations: Ukraine, Poland. There's Canada right here. We have Montreal, Quebec, Gameloft with 4 job openings. United Kingdom, Iceland, all over the place, right? So I know that it's a little tough when it comes to this job category. It's a lot of international jobs as well. But don't be afraid to take a look at them, and who knows where your life will take you, right? That kind of stuff. Um, and you can also see that they also have green tags right beside some of these jobs here that have what's called relocation assistance, which actually helps people move into new jobs and also provide visas for you. So if you did want to move over and try and work for these different companies, we have CD Project Red here, who worked on very great games, they will actually help you move over there as long as you are skilled enough. So don't be afraid that you're kind of stuck where you are, right? And also don't forget different websites to apply for more jobs in Toronto or Montreal or wherever you're based from. Um, there's tons of websites for that. And that even includes things like Craigslist. I've seen job advertisements on Craigslist and Kijiji. Also, just looking up on the game industry list on Google, you'll see a list where all the game companies are located. And that'll be great. See things like High Res Studio right here, 12 job openings. They work on games like Smite, etc. So there's lots of different game studios. Now, if you're looking for more visual effects, there's tons of different lists as well. I believe these list games and visual effects companies. But if not, just go search on Google, and I guarantee if you just look up visual effects developers, not publishers, you want developers, you'll be able to find a ton of different jobs. So artstation.com is definitely recommended. And it's also a good place to bring up my next point, where we're going to talk about a little bit about portfolio preparation and getting render examples. So pretty much when you think about renders, you probably think of something that looks like, let's see, something like this or like that. People make renders and they showcase work like this, and this is kind of fine to showcase your work, but really you need to push that a little bit further as well. You see something like this body here. Now you want to start doing things with multiple views, or at least like different settings for them. So something closer like this. So we have even some, it takes a little bit of what's called aftercare work. And a lot of people forget that when you do a 3D render like this, it's not just the 3D render, right? What you want is not only to see this character like this, you want to add a background. You see there's a web here. That's not 3D, that's photoshopped in. Web right here. You can see the tool set that they use to make this model right here. I see 3D Studio Max. I see the 3D coat. I think that's Marmoset, and I don't know what the last symbol is. Maybe make those a little bit clearer. I know this is a small image I gathered. But you can see like 4 different views of the 3D model, how it looks, the anatomy. You can see the wireframe here and how good it looks. And that's often really important to showcasing a 3D model. Now something like this is a little bit different, where we see the full character modeled. So this is someone who just models. They don't texture. And you can see in the bottom left, this is the 2D concept, and this is the actual model itself. So if you're thinking about focusing on your modeling, I would definitely suggest showing multiple views, like the Spider-Girl here, or you can show like wireframes like this. But definitely do multiple views of a character like this with like nice lighting. Do 4 different renders and merge them together in Photoshop, and show the concept art. If you're going to stick with modeling, I think that's the best way to go with it. Now, I would definitely recommend doing modeling and texturing. You can see how much this pops out. This is from a modeler, Torture999 on DeviantArt, who specializes in low polygon artwork. So this is a very low polygon chibi version of Samus. And you can see that not only do they show 4 different views of Samus, front and back. You don't really need 4 views. I would say 3 is fine, or at least 2. So you have like, let's say, front and side. And then you would show like a nice shot of this model. So for them, it's the zoomed in portion here that they want to focus on. I'd say this texture isn't perfect. You can see like this black spot here is just like way too black contrasted. Maybe some more detail there would be awesome. But something like this, just doing that little bit of extra texture work, makes the model pop out a lot from the sheet. And just setting it up in different views, and then having a like your perfect view or your highlight view, and then having a texture sheet rendered and put in here often speaks wonders for your work. Now, when it comes to doing this type of sheet, you can arrange it in a whole bunch of different patterns, so don't be afraid to be stuck. But you don't have to do that either, right? You don't have to do this kind of stuff. What if you want to do something more artsy? Something that fits on ArtStation is probably something more like this. Now this is a 3D model, and the best way to show off a 3D model is to do multiple renders and lay them over each other inside Photoshop. I wish this one had more layers of rendering, like maybe some grayscale, but you can see here in the bottom left, they actually show the wireframe progression of that model going up here. And then it fades into the actual character. On the black bar down here at the bottom, we see the name of the model, how many triangles, how many texture maps it is, and a link to your website. So that's another good way of showcasing your model. So you can see something like this. This one pops out much more because it's on a nice contrasting background. It's not a black background. It just contrasts against the colors that are actually on here. So it's like a really dark bluish, which contrasts nicely against the orange here and the light blue of the model itself. And then showing a little bit of the wireframe progression and then detailing the model with just how many polygons and triangles is usually good. Now, if you were going to do something like this, I'd also recommend not showing off the color here, but fading the color. Like render a grayscale version of this as well, layer it in Photoshop or whatever program you'd like, and just start erasing and start making it go layered up like that. And yeah, so there's lots of different ways to show off your 3D model skills and do some nice renders. You can see we have a nice render like this, which is just a grayscale render, nothing more than the grayscale. But you can see behind here, you can see some of the normal map, some of the texturing on the rock is hidden here. And then you can see this, and it has some nice lighting on it too. It's just good to show off the wireframe as well, right, of the model. So as a person who's looking to hire, I can see the wireframe work, I can see the rock detail, and I go up the model, and I can see how much effort, effort is put in all this area here. So which is great. Now, for a model like this, I would recommend still some more closer up shots, so I don't have to zoom in like this. I shouldn't have to do that. I should have a nice widescreen shot like the Samus or something to work from. Different views for different things is always great. And we have a model like this, which is made by Senzua, and basically it's showing off different poses and rigs as well. But like I said, show multiple versions of your model. You see you got a back view, a front view, and kind of a side view here. That's kind of really what you want to show off mostly for your models. If you can pose it, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. A basic T-pose will work just as fine to showcase your model, or a basic pose like this. You see we have an angle shot, a front shot, and a side shot. And this is just a simple screenshots that are merged together because the person didn't know Photoshop very well. So if you don't know Photoshop, don't fret. Just take some screenshots and just cut them up in Paint or something like that, and those can work as well. But obviously, if you can get a more advanced program and put them together, and that's always a fantastic mark for building up. Of course, if you want to just do single renders and showcase a model from one view, you can as well. See, this is just a basic model, textured, some simple lighting and stuff like that, and it shows off a cool model just simply like that. So don't be afraid to render one shot. Don't feel limited, right? Some things that people like to do when it comes to 3D printing showcase, they like to, if they're doing parts and pieces, they tend to render in different parts and pieces. Unfortunately, this person didn't tag their name and email, which I definitely recommend doing every time. But this is a nice breakdown showing you how 3D print would work and how this guy separated all the 3D print parts to work best for him. So things like that are really important as well. Here's another one with just a render, simple wireframe, straight render like this. Signature down at the bottom right, black background, completely black. Just a nice render using Mental Ray, just give it a color and then give it a wireframe above it and use the push modifier to do that. I'm not sure if I explained it before, but you see how the wireframe doesn't show the back of the head, right? So a problem that a lot of people face is they'll do something like this, and I'll opening up 3D Studio Max right now. I'm going to build a sphere here and a sphere here. Now, I'm going to open up my material editor. I'm going to make 3 standard materials. This one will be white. This one will be black. Okay, we don't need 3, just 2 is fine. So I'm going to put this one as the white material, and this one is the black wireframe. So I will change some of the render setup right here. I'll just put it to HD 1920, and I'll also change the background. Render setup, environment. I'll change it to a gray. There you go. So you could see like with force two-sided on and force two-sided off. So this used to be a problem in 3D Studio Max. They did do an upgrade, but it's just something to showcase to you that if you want to show your model underneath a wireframe, let's say you're not that great in Photoshop and you can't render this out, like I'll just take this away. You can't render the sphere out and then, you know, just apply this material and merge them in Photoshop. You need to put them together. What I'd recommend doing is this. Make your model have a white material and give it a color of 100%. What this tells the model is take no lighting, take no nothing from anything else, and just give me the actual wire. Just give me the full color of the model. Now you're going to duplicate this model, but keep it in the same spot. So basically, if this is like an unmirrored model, what I might do is go mirror, copy, and then there's a new copy on spot, right? And then apply my standard wireframe. Then I apply the push modifier, and I just push it by 0.1 or 0.2, whatever works. And now you get your wireframe right on top of your model. So if my model was nice and textured and detailed, I can just render the model with the with the texture and have the wireframe over the top of it. So if I go to my white model here, I'm going to add a diffuse, let's say a gradient. There you go. So if this was a texture, or if I'll just delete this, I'll add a checkerboard. There you go. And I'll tile this checkerboard a lot. Tile 55. There you go. Tile the checkerboard, and there's a wireframe right on top of it. That actually really hurt my eyes. Wow. Let me not do that again. There you go. Now you can see a nice wireframe on top of the checker pattern. Whereas if we did it the other way, we'd have to go into Photoshop, play around a little too much. But this way we can just render it once and boom, the wireframe's right on top of our model. Just by copying the model and giving it the black wireframe like this, we can just move it on top of the model like that. So that's one way of doing that. Also keep in mind, obviously, this person uses lights and makes everything look really pretty. And if you don't want lights to affect your wireframe, make the color of the wireframe 100% black. That way lights and shadows don't affect the wireframe either. The wireframe can still accept colors, shadows, and lights. So you can always do that. You can see something like here, which is a nice render. They just colored these polygons in the way that shows edge looping. You can see there's a wireframe render and then a grayscale render to show like what the model looks like on the wires and what it looks like here. It's just basically to showcase a nice clean model. I always keep references like this around too. I save them in a folder called 3D on my computer because I always look at them as references for when I'm 3D modeling something. If I need help understanding like how an eye socket works or how I can improve upon that, upon an ear, upon lips, or a lot of the other models that I have, upon the arms, upon the legs, that kind of stuff. I always keep references like this around because I find them really helpful to get smooth shapes that I like. So always keep them around. And you can see nice renders like this really showcase off a lot of the model. And little tutorials like this often help developing. Now this is Japanese and uses Hair Farm. But it's something I like to keep around just as references to like what I can do to improve and what some people are already doing. Here's one about for 100% hand painting tutorial. So this is a nice layout that I would recommend if you're going to do a lot of inorganic objects. Just do that because I would highly recommend this as a method of showcasing your work. So we have a reference on his side. We have a flat light, so it's just showing the gray model and wireframe. Now, technically, I wouldn't care if the flat light was on its own. I would probably merge the flat light with this wireframe model, or at least have the wireframe right on this. So this would be wireframe. This would be the model with wireframe, and then just the model. And then he has the unwrap here. The unwrap for this model is actually not that great, so don't worry about that. The little square box we saw last time before on, I forget what model it was. The little square box you saw, Samus. On Samus, that's the one you want to kind of shoot for. I'm going to try and see if I can open it to make a comparison. Here we go. This is the kind of unwrap you kind of want. Lots of detail, lots of showcase. and broken down to use the full square. The companies want to see that you can use a full texture map. Here, it's kind of just one. If this were a whole square texture map, there's so much wasted space here that he could actually fixed up this UV to use more space, just like split it somewhere, and it would have used a ton more space, and he could have got a ton more detail in to work with. He probably could have shrank it by like half the size too. Instead of being 512 by 512, could have been 256. Another note, if you're going to use red text, don't put it on gray. Red looks really bad on most monitors and TVs. Use a dulled out red, or put it against a black surface. The black and red here look okay, but on gray and white, red looks horrible. So just a little advice there to watch out for. Here's another type of render that I actually really enjoy seeing. So if you only have one thing to really show off and you want to show it off really well, do different renders and show off different lighting. Like here's a rim light, here's a shadow, here's the curvature map, here's the ambient occlusion, here's the subsurface scattering, the depth map, color, and Fresnel maps. Now these are just different renders to look at the model in different ways, but what someone might do with these types of renders, that you can change your lights in your scene to reflect these types of renders, is bringing them into Photoshop and overlay. So technically this rim light is just an omni light right here, and then it's spread this light on one side of the body and everything else is black. So if you went in Photoshop and you put it into, I believe, overlay or color burn or anything like that, this would be a nice way to do that. And shadow map, same thing. You can see the shadows are actually different here and here, meaning that they're just moving the light to reflect how they want shadows and rim light to look. Same with curvature maps, can be generated in 3D Coat. Ambient occlusion can be generated by doing skylight in 3D Studio Max, which I've taught you in the first couple weeks. That kind of stuff. So just be aware there's a lot of different ways to showcase a model. Something like this is a nice way. You see this person really broke it down, added shadows. It's not a direct black background. Look, there's even detail in the blackness in the back. There's a sort of texture pattern going in the back. You title your character. If it's for a website specifically or a project, you label it. You put your name, the year you worked on it, and any link to your portfolio. And you can say what software you used. ZBrush and Marmoset tool bag here were used for this model. And like that's really all you need to have in your portfolio. Look at that, 102 million polygons on this high polygon model. 30,000 on the final. That's insane. Also some people just do quick renders. Something like this, Princess Mononoke here, their own version of Princess Mononoke, I should say. They just did a simple render with a flat or curved background. So this is just a flat plane that's meant to look curved up, and they put a light here and just did a couple of renders. I believe there's a couple of renders, yeah, like that and that. And it's a good showcase of a model. Simple, clean, but you can tell like the modeling details there. And if you find a good material in Mental Ray, or you want to use a different program, you can see it this if I went to this close, it looks like a toy. It looks like it's real. And that can really sell your 3D model a lot to different people. So, and here's another way to look at diffuse light, rim light, texture ramp, and normal map and diffuse texture. Different ways to play around to kind of get these models looking good. Something like this tracer here. They have the final render here. They have the wireframe render here with the eyeballs. I don't know why the eyeballs are still eyeballs. Maybe it looked weird without it. But something like this. And have these two renders side by side to showcase, or you can have them as 3 separate renders. This person has one render like this, which is full color, full texture, full everything. Then there's one texture with just the wireframe and the basic model. And then they have a, I believe this is the high polygon model. It's just the model without any textures. That's all it is. Yeah, it's the high poly. You can see the zipper and everything like that. So, yeah. So doing stuff like that is kind of, it's pretty cool and enhances your work a lot. And it allows you to showcase to different people rather quickly what you're doing. Here's just a simple character in 3 different poses showing the, like I said, here's a side view, a front view, and a back view. If you don't know how to animate or rig or anything like that, which is a whole different ball game, try and look it up on YouTube and just do quick rigs for your models. It only takes a couple hours to learn, and then you can kind of do something like this. But if not, just keep your characters in a T-pose and put them in those poses like something like this. And I would never recommend to use a completely black background like this. Like for instance, for this guy, and I'm going to show you an example in Photoshop, just for any of those that are interested how I would improve something like that. I'll load up Photoshop. It is like a dark blue-ish background. I noticed that putting it to different monitors. shows it off a little differently. I have 3 different monitors on my sorry, my voice is crackling. 1 second. There you go, a little bit better. I have 3 different monitors on my computer, so I see things different ways. So something I would do to enhance, excuse me, this astronaut is to actually put like stars in the background and stuff like that. Because it looks a little plain, and on one monitor it looks really dark blue. See, in Photoshop it actually looks much different. Check it out. I'm not sure if you can see the difference here. I'll see if you guys can see the difference. Yeah, so in Photoshop, bam, I get that really nice light blue thing. You know, outside of Photoshop, it's still pretty dark, like a really dark blue. But to enhance this picture, all I would do is go online and I'd look up something like, you know, royalty-free space photo. Royalty-free space photograph. And I would find something like, let's see, why not like a nebula or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for a high resolution image here. Size large. So something like that. And it's basically not, you don't have to do a crazy amount. Like all I have is these stars here. Let me copy this image and try and paste it. So I just grab a whole bunch of stars. And I know this is a little bit tweaky in Photoshop. I'm going to do my best here. 11. Sample all layers. Something like this. And then I'm going to go to, here's screen. And we're basically just adding we're breaking up the image a bit by adding a few speckles around. And then you don't have to do it just once. Like for instance, that's me adding speckles. But if I go, let's see, space and I find something cool. Find something super cool like a nebula. Here we go, something like this. So I'm going to copy this. Find something cool like this. This is another royalty-free image. And I'm just going to maybe post it in the middle like that. You can just really make your images pop a little bit better. Like that. And obviously I'd blend it in a little bit better. But overall, just by adding a few little texture details, you're breaking up the image to look a lot better. And it adds a lot more to the actual image itself. It's kind of it's not trying to be distracting. It's just trying to enhance the picture by giving it a mood. You wouldn't you wouldn't watch an animated cartoon with just 2 characters running against each other like Tom and Jerry, because that's boring if there was no background or anything like that, or if it was a plain color background. It would have to be moving of some sort. This is why they added a lot of wall boards at the bottom of walls in cartoons. It's just to break up the background a little bit. That's why they used a lot of wood. They use couches and tables to kind of hide the fact that the colors on the walls are all plain, and to make it look a little bit better, fill it out a lot better. And so that's kind of what you need to shoot for when it comes to your preparing your renders. You need to kind of shoot for that, just enhancing the renders, and by going into programs like Photoshop. That's always really really important to do. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't know Photoshop, you're out of luck. Just try and do some renders with some alpha backgrounds, and just shove those renders on top of something. Because even though a model like this looks good, that background just doesn't enhance the model at all. Sure, it showcases it a bit, but if this were a dark gray and maybe had like a rustic overtone, I'd get the fact that maybe he was an older school looking character, or he belongs in a certain time era. Right now I'm just taking a guess that because of big buttons, it's like, okay, big buttons, I get it. And he's got I see it like robot arms or skeleton arms or something. I don't know. It doesn't, if you just add a little bit more ambiance all around the character, the renders, I think, would look better. Oh, I can tell it's like a skeleton because of the leg here. You see, but it took me forever to pick out these details because it's just like, okay, great. Yeah, I see a peg leg, but I'm not getting the vibe off of it because of the environment. Whereas just like subtle things like changing background colors. For instance, this is just a ZBrush render that a guy made, all ZBrush. He took the render, bring it into Photoshop, and blurred out a background shot of Zootopia. This is the same background image, just moved over slightly in both images. But you could see the colors in the background really enhance and push that character forward. and make this image look a lot more interesting. So that's something that you definitely need to practice with. Simple things like this, where it's just showing 2-character rendered wireframe, and then the actual render with a slight gradient background that's darker gray than the characters itself. Give it a mood, a feeling, right? It's a little bit dark, a little bit depressing, but also it's a little bit cold. And then these characters are really warm and fuzzy, and they're supposed to be anyways. So making it, giving it a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow actually would have brought this out quite a bit for the lights. And that's all it takes, really, is just doing a little bit of color. So here's a good model. Background. It's just a simple gradient, purple to light purple here, and the character is turned around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to show a full 360 view of the character and a little logo. And like I said, that's all you need. You don't have to go super complex. Just do something that isn't like plain gray or plain black. Add a little bit of detail. And here, this is the actual image of a light setup. So somebody put a rim light coming down, a main light in the front, and a light in the back with some different colors. And look what you get here, right? This render is so much more interesting using basic Mental Ray lights and Mental Ray itself. And you can even use, you don't have to use Mental Ray, you can use a simple scanline renderer or a different program. You can go into something like Marmoset, you can go into something like the Paint Studio Paint, Substance Designer, stuff like that. We'll do renders like this for you as well, including Mental Ray. But you can see like it really, really pops a lot better doing that type of work. So definitely like just take your time with it, right? Everything's about time. And using that time right and doing just faded backgrounds makes everything look so much better when they're rendered. This is a simple head model. You guys can do this. It's the same tactics we did for the Joan of Arc model, except they added hair and they added some horns. And if you just add some basic subsurface scattering using Mental Ray, the skin shader, there's a fast skin shader if you look it up in your material editor. Don't be afraid to go in your material editor. So if we went to rendering, render setup, and I switch this to a Mental Ray renderer right here, instead of scanline renderer, I go to Mental Ray. You see we have all this. There's also a search toolbar at the very top. So if you're looking up something like skin, that didn't work. Let's see, subsurface scattering fast material, subsurface scattering fast skin plus displacement map, and then you can add this model here, and boom, right? We get a quick skin shader with subsurface scattering already built in. And I'll just let that render finish really quick. It should take like a few seconds. Yeah, see, and you're already good to go. You have this nice skin material, and you can just do whatever else you want to fix that render up to make it look really nice. Let me see. So changing the overall diffuse coloration, which is for some reason not popping up right now. There it is. Changing it something like skin tony. Hopefully it'll look a lot darker. There's a lot better look of the skin tone. And using that will definitely enhance the work. And then adding lights in the scene, right? That's with no lights, and then adding lights and etc. will always do good for you, and never go that bad. So take your time and see these plain renders look great, and it showcases the work of the texture and the model itself here. But if, like I said, if you're just doing model work, check it out. Just like for a front view, even at a slight angle, it's got a slight front angle front view, slight angle on the back view, and a side view. And that's pretty much all you need. I could just take away this Batman work in progress, because if someone showed me just this and then put their name on the bottom, boom, done, nailed it. That's a complete model right there. So, yeah, just take your time and do that. And you can see something like this is also good. For you guys who did all the organic models, the body, make a body of a character, make the armor, show off the base mesh of the armor, and then your final version, right? Just things like that to showcase your work go really well. You can see it even has a version before, which is just showing 1 side, 2 side, 3 side. Simple enough. And that's a good way to do it. And if you want to take it a step further and learn texturing, step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. You could show your breakdowns and everything. Those are always good to have in your portfolios and break those down. And yeah, like I said, the best advice I can give, show a few different views of your model, do some Photoshop work in the background to enhance it, and you'll be good to go. So just try and keep up with mental rate practice. Try and keep up with doing your renders. Register on ArtStation.com and get feedback from different artists. And do a lot of inorganic work to start with. Then move to actual scenes and items. And then move to organic characters if you feel more confident. Start building up characters. And just take it from there and start unwrapping and texturing if you can. If you don't really want to unwrap and texture, that's fine. Just focus on your modeling skills. And just keep improving those as you go along. And we're going to be good. So I'm going to seal off this lesson by just saying you should register on ArtStation.com, DeviantArt. I know DeviantArt's a little full up these days, I'll say. But registering on websites like ArtStation, Polycount, or any type of 3D forum like the 3D Total, or the 3D Total. Those will all work, in CG Hub and stuff like that. Those are all great for artists, especially up-and-coming artists like you guys, to kind of just showcase your work and get good feedback. And of course, I'll be here for feedback as well. So all you really need to do now is model, and you guys have the skills and you have the time to do that. So anything else is basically, you need to just push yourselves as hard as you can to make it happen, right? So you can't blame anyone else that you don't have the skills, you don't have the talent, or I mean, you can say you don't have the time, that's fine. But you need to make time to do this and to improve your skills. 3D is about learning the basics, learning the fundamentals, making sure you can do the fundamentals, which was what we spent 8 weeks doing, making sure you went from, like I said, beginner to certified advanced. And right now you're all advanced because you have the advanced skills to get started and push through. But now it's up to you to fill out your portfolio and make the objects, items, characters that you want to put in your portfolio to not only show off your personality, but to be good quality as well, so that when companies look at it, they'll not only laugh and giggle and enjoy what you're doing, or you inspire them because it's so good, but also they want to hire you because they like what you're doing. So, and to have that, you need to practice, and keep modeling. I have modeled the same character 7 times over years and years and years of doing this, and I still think there's room to improve. So don't feel like this is something that you're going to get instantly and then make the best models ever. Try and do things that you like first, that you think you can do at a faster pace. So if you think you can make a Master Sword from Zelda, and Zelda inspires you, go for it. Try and UV map it. Try and texture it. Don't cheat yourself by working only on half a thing and then saying, I'm done, next thing. Work as hard as you can until you have a finished object that you're proud of, and then post that on your portfolio. Even if it's not the perfect portfolio object, it's showing a bit of your personality, and then you can replace it later with something else that you're more proud of, and then keep that pace going, right? So, sorry this is turning into a podcast, but basically overall what I want you guys to do is take a look at a lot of different images on 3D, on ArtStation. Download a whole bunch of 3D models. You can even go on something like Pinterest and look up 3D wireframe. Like, and I'll just do it right now to show an example. I'll go Pinterest right now. And I look up, basically all here for me. Like if I had trouble looking at armor and seeing how other people did armor, look, you can see it shows right here. There's the plates right here. And this is in 3D Studio Max as well. The plates of armor, the wires. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great right here. I like how he did that. And then, how do I do an animate character in this type of 3D environment? Oh, there's the wireframes they did. Those are nice. Oh, well, let me check out. And because Pinterest goes image to image, it actually shows you in full detail, like, recommendations of how to do different different similar objects. So, for instance, because I looked up 3D wireframe a lot, it's popping in this kind of stuff, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of like, oh, this is how I do an elbow joint. Oh, that's a cool character right there. Oh, how did they do this hair here? I'm interested. I'm curious. So they laid out the hair like that, and then they broke it apart using NURBS, I guess. This is Japanese, so it's a little hard to understand. But by clicking on one thing, it can lead you to a whole bunch of things and learning new tools and tips that you may have thought you've never come to see again. So look, there's the Mortal Kombat symbol. There's Melina, showing the basic body and the posing. There's teeth right here. So websites like Pinterest and ArtStation and stuff are not only good for inspiration, but things that you can use. Like if you want to make high poly cuffs, or like 2 links that can link together, look, that's how the low poly model looks. Then they added some, looks like Turbo Smooth or Mesh Smooth, and boom, we get a nice looking pair of cuffs here that link together. And we have nice characters, and if you're interested in these characters, you can always click on them. Here's polygonal hair, how to get a ponytail. like how they got the ponytail effect, right? So don't be afraid to go on websites like these and get inspired, get motivated, learn how they do it, break down their work, and like figure it out how to do it. Like here's a low poly arm contest. Look, just a basic arm and really, really low poly, right? And then you can imitate that, and you can see like just by clicking on that low poly arm, if you're having trouble with low poly arms, this is how to do an elbow joint, like for low poly animation. Here's how to do a hand using box modeling, which you guys have like already know already. But like then I find cool stuff like, oh, here's a sword. Oh, this is a perfect way to show off an inorganic object. Here's a render with the texture. Here's a render with the wireframe. Here's the texture. Shows how many polygons it is, how many triangles. Here's the texture size, and his basic email. Just like that. Oh, wait, look, here's a whole ton of different objects. And now you're getting inspired. Now you're building stuff up. Don't be afraid to ask people if they want you to 3D model. In fact, sometimes I go on Facebook and I tell people, hey, I'm bored. I want to sketch something. Tell me something to sketch. Why don't you try and do the same thing in 3D? Maybe your buddy needs a 3D print of a mini sword for his D&D character. You know, that kind of stuff. Make sure you inspire yourself. And don't be afraid to model one thing and then model additional parts for that thing. So if you model something like this sword here, like that sword, model a sheath for the sword. Okay, maybe the sheath wasn't good enough. Maybe I want to do something like a broken version of that sword. Maybe there's a story behind it. Model a story. People love stories and stuff like that too. And if you can tell a story from your 3D modeling, then that's all the better. And people like that kind of stuff a lot, like ridiculously a lot. Here's a cool stylized 3D character, right? Try and test yourself to try and model these types of things as well. Take your time, right? These take weeks, months. Don't look at these and be demotivated because you're like, oh, look how good this person is. Like I look at this and I'm like, oh my god, look at that work. Look at this. Even this face is like awesome. This takes weeks, months. Some people take a year on a 3D model just to really try and get something done in their spare time to try and make it look really awesome. And that's not a problem. Now, if you're on a time constraint or something like that, try and think of how to build up something or look up lots of tutorials on how to build them or look up lots of references on here so that you can kind of expand that. You can see things like this, like 2D artwork, maybe those orthographics you can work from. Maybe there's a concept that you already like that you can find on a website like this. That's awesome. Take the time, look it up, do your things, and try and make something really cool. And if you want to send it to me for an early review, that's great. If you just want to get straight to a render and show me the final render, your final image that you're about to post, I'd love to see that too. So this is all about taking your time now. So do that. Take your time, do your best, and model something cool. And maybe after Christmas break, I'd like to do a follow-up with some of you to see how that work is going and if you did anything cool over Christmas. And maybe I'll do something cool over Christmas too, to counter you guys and your skills. All right, so take care. Have a good Christmas break. I'm going to make one more video tomorrow that's going to cover basically how to best apply for different jobs. But it's going to be a shorter video. But I just want you guys to do really well. But I want you guys to also take your spare time that you have and remember that you really want this, right? You should want this more than you want to breathe, and you should want it more than you want to sleep and a nap and food and all that stuff. You need, like, obviously eat, obviously sleep, but make sure that if you're feeling creative, you sit down at the computer, you listen to some of your favorite tunes, put on some Daft Punk, Gorillaz, Linkin Park, whatever gets you in the emotional mood to get going, and then just sit and focus. If you're finding it hard to have time to yourself, try and tell people that you need at least 2 hours in a day to focus. The problem that people suffer a lot is that they sit down at their computer and they start working for 10 minutes and someone pops by their door or someone says something to them that distracts them. And a distraction, you think it might be only 10 seconds, but a distraction breaks the entire flow. You would never watch a movie and then 20 minutes in the movie, a character in the movie just goes, okay, stop the movie, I need to take a break. You're out of it. You're out of the experience in the movie, and even if they played the movie again 2 seconds later, you've already disconnected from the movie. You need to reset that. And that's what happens when I find a lot of people do when they work. If you check Facebook, you disconnected yourself from your work. If you checked Photoshop, some Skype or something else, you're disconnecting from your work. Now, little disconnections like that where you have to check a message or you have to check an email, that's fine. But if it can be avoided, avoid that kind of disconnection, because it's not 10 seconds, it's not 5 seconds, it's 10 minutes, it's half an hour that you've lost because you're distracted. And if you can just focus, I guarantee the objects and things that you're going to make, you'll do them much faster. You'll make less mistakes, and you'll have great results. Um, so that's my final advice on that. And so tomorrow we'll talk about focusing on different industries, giving you some advice on what to model, and we'll take it from there. And you'll have your Christmas break. And I'd like to have follow-ups with you, everybody, when it comes around January, probably the 2nd or 3rd. I'd like to have follow-ups. So if you guys have stuff to show me around then, please send it my way. Send it to me anytime, really. I'd love to see any of your models. And your certificates will be emailed out. It'll probably be a little bit later than January, probably around February. But if you're applying for jobs earlier than that, you can use me as a reference. And if you need that reference information, just give me an email. I'll prepare letters of reference starting in January for each of you, and we'll take it from there. All right? But remember, I need you to keep modeling and building up your portfolio as well. Very, very important. So I want to see that work keep going. And who knows where you'll get, right? And we'll talk more about jobs and internships and what to expect out of the industry and applying for different jobs tomorrow. Take care, enjoy, and good luck.